To my right, I have a 35 by 1250 Nitto Ridge Grappler, and to my left, a 37 by 1250 Nitto Trail Grappler. Both of these are very true to size tires, meaning that if it says 35 on it, it's going to be pretty darn close to it. Now, I recently pulled off the 35s off of my 2020 Gladiator Rubicon and moved up to a 37-inch tall tire. Now, currently, I'm running a 35-inch Ridge Grappler in the stock tire location. I'll show you that in just a minute. And today, I'm going to show you the challenges of trying to put a 37 in the stock tire location and why I'm just not a big fan of it. And oftentimes, it really doesn't work. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's start with the good news. Yes, a 35 by 1250 R17 fits in the stock location. Now this is mounted on the factory steel 17-inch wheel, and I have tested this with my aftermarket AEV borer wheel, and it will work as well. So a true to size 35 fits underneath here without any problem. So bravo to Jeep for that. That is great. Now let's look at what a 37 looks like. From the back of the track bar to the portion of the receiver that sticks out, you have right at 36.5 inches. Now you do not want any part of your tire hitting or resting against the track bar. It's a moving suspension member, and putting any type of pressure where when the axle cycles it would contact it, even driving down the road, is not a good idea. I see people constantly say, well, it just rubs the track bar a little bit. That's not a good thing. You don't want it to rub. It can sit back here against the receiver all day long. This doesn't move. That's not a big deal. But if you are doing this and you find that it is touching the track bar, do not run it that way. That is not a safe or smart idea. Obviously, you don't want to bend your track bar. You don't want it rubbing against it. Just don't do it. So let's see how this 37 Trail Grappler fits underneath here. And as I suspected, it's not going to fit. Now this is 25 PSI, so it's not like it's aired up a ton. And I think there's this idea that, hey, what if we just let all the air out of it? Then that'd be perfect. Kind of kills the point of the spare idea, but just to prove a point, I'm going to go ahead and deflate this thing entirely and see if it fits then. Completely deflated, did get the tire higher, but it's still hitting the track bar, which is ultimately the issue here. It doesn't matter if it hits that heat shield. It doesn't matter if it hits the receiver. The big deal here is you don't want it to hit the track bar. So even at 0 PSI, this tire on this AEV wheel, which is a pretty common, it's a 17 by 9 in the configuration that I have it because it's in the true beadlock form, doesn't work. So, and if it was on the stock steel wheel, which is even narrower, it would be even taller. So that's not going to help the situation at all. Yes, I got it a little bit higher in this configuration in terms of I was able to pull it up, but it's still not fully pulled up. So it's not fully seated where you would want it. And it hangs down quite a bit. So at the end of the day, this isn't going to work, especially considering how much it collides with the rear track bar. That's an issue. So yeah, let's talk about some options. Okay, so what are your options? Now, number one, an easy solution is just run a 35-inch spare. Now, that might sound crazy and not the most ideal situation, but honestly, if you really consider how often you have had to swap out a spare, my guess is it's pretty low. For having a trail spare as a 35, it's not as ideal. For having a highway spare for if you're daily driving this thing, it's not going to be a big deal at all. You can let out a little bit of air pressure out of the 37 and it's going to get close enough to this 35 that you could get anywhere you needed to with running a slightly smaller tire. So that wouldn't be that big of a deal to me. I typically always carry a plug kit, and on any vehicle that I either have a goofy mismatch spare or I'm not running a spare at all, I carry one of my Via Air, either my 450 or 400 little portable air compressor to go along with that plug kit, because after all, you got to be able to air the tire back up. So that's an easy solution that I typically do. For wheeling, if I'm going to go take this thing up to the mountains, I'm not going to run my spare in the stock location. These things have not ideal departure angles, and taking the spare out really helps protect the tire, keeps this thing from slamming down all the time. So I generally just remove it and then I'll put it in the bed. I know that doesn't work for everybody. For me, it works just fine. There are plenty of full-size spare solutions out there. I know Wilco makes a tire gate. You can get the upright one from AEV that goes at the front of the bed. And JCR, I think, actually makes a full tire swing out system for this. So if you need a really good tire carrier solution, I know they're out there. I personally wouldn't sweat on a daily driver just running a 35 in the stock location and not worrying about it. I run plenty of times without a spare. I know a lot of people cringe at that, but I keep an air compressor and plug kit with me, and knock on wood, I've been very fortunate to that hasn't been a problem. Again, if I'm going out of town, any longer adventures, I put the tire in the back. I got a family of 4. We can still put all of our luggage and all that good stuff in the back and not have an issue with having a full-size 37 in the back. So something to consider. Hopefully you guys found this informative. I think at the end of the day, we've learned here any 35 is going to fit underneath the back of the Gladiator within reason. 37s, I know people have had luck with putting them underneath there. In my opinion, ultimately it's because either A, it's not a true to size 37, or B, they're allowing it to touch the track bar, which is definitely not the right way to do it. One other solution before I forget is Krawler suspension actually makes a upper 4-link conversion for the back of these Gladiators, and it allows you to get rid of the track bar completely. It puts a truss on the top and uses 2 angled upper control arms, and that might be a really good solution if you do want to keep that spare in the stock location that's important to you, and it's a good way to actually get a little bit more flexibility out of this for suspension. These radius style control arms that are stacked on top, they kind of work like a radius arm, and it doesn't really flex all that much in the back. So going to that type of suspension upgrade would be a legit upgrade. It's worth noting the Jeep that I've been testing this on today is on a 37 by 1250 with only a 1-inch Terraflex spacer in the front and a 3/4-inch Daystar spacer in the back. I've tested that with 37s with a 37 1350. I've obviously tested it with this, and yes, it clears, it works, it's amazing. Back spacing is key to making that work, doing a low lift kind of big tire combo. So hopefully you guys found this informative. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you've got any questions for me, you can always find me at Ali Mansour Editor on Instagram. And until next time, hope you guys are safe, and we'll hopefully see you on the trail. Bye-bye.